The bank opened its doors at 9, and the city's weekday rush flowed in like a river that had waited all night behind a gate. Sunlight hit the tall glass windows and turned the polished floor into a pale mirror. The rhythm of the lobby was familiar, the soft beep of ticket numbers, the murmur of voices, the rustle of forms, the whir of a printer, and the slow sweep of the security guard's calm footsteps. People carried coffee cups and phone reminders and the usual worries about bills, rent, tuition, and deadlines. Behind the counter, Ethan adjusted his tie, took a breath, and glanced at the screen that told him the sales leaderboard for the month. He was not in first place. He was not even in second. The red number bothered him, and he decided, again, that today would be the day he pushed harder. Ethan had a sharp face and the quick hands of someone used to tapping out long strings of numbers. He liked neat piles and perfectly even stacks of bills that lay like small green bricks. He liked a smooth shift with no surprises. He also liked praise, and Miss Patel, the branch manager, gave praise only when she meant it. This made it rare. She was kind, but serious. She believed in rules and in listening. Her watch was always 10 minutes fast, on purpose, to keep the team ahead of time. When she walked the floor in the morning, the staff stood straighter as if a breeze had moved through them. "Good morning, Ethan," she said, pausing at his window. "Eyes up. Greet every guest. Be patient. Accuracy first." "Got it," he said, managing a smile. To his right, Serena at the next window flashed a grin. "Big day," she whispered. "You can beat your number. Just keep it friendly." "Friendly, sure," Ethan said, and he meant it, but he also meant fast. The line was already long. The ticket board blinked. A printer hiccuped. The door chimed again. A man in a plain jacket and a baseball cap joined the line. He had a gentle way of standing, as if he were making space for others even when he was not moving. He looked like someone who liked quiet. He held a small, worn leather wallet in one hand and a slim card folder in the other. He did not check his phone. He looked around the lobby with a soft half-smile, as if he were grateful for the morning itself. Some faces in the line glanced at him and looked away. One kid stared with bright curiosity, then nudged his mother. She looked, blinked, and tilted her head, not quite sure. Number 36 flashed. "Next, please," Ethan called, with his eyes on the keyboard. The man in the cap stepped forward when it was his turn. Up close, the light caught his face and made it familiar. He spoke in a calm, low voice. "Good morning." "Morning," Ethan said, still looking at the screen. "What can we do for you today?" "I'd like to confirm some details on my account," the man said. "And I need a certified statement for a transfer." "Okay," Ethan said, tapping. "Card and ID." "Of course." The man placed the card and a driver's license gently on the counter. His hands were steady. His manners were careful. His eyes were kind, and there was a trace of tiredness there, the soft kind that comes from long work, or travel, or both. Ethan took the card with a quick nod and scanned it. The system beeped. He typed a note to himself and clicked open a verification panel. He still had not looked closely at the customer's face. The jacket and the cap and the quiet tone had placed the man in a mental folder labeled routine. Routine was safe. Routine meant fast. Purpose of the statement? Ethan asked. "A donation," the man said. "For a local program." "Uh-huh." Ethan glanced at the long line, then at the monthly leaderboard on the screen's corner, then back at the verification panel. He felt a familiar tension in his chest, the one that said, "Keep it moving. Keep the queue short." He exhaled. "We can do that. I'll need to pull up your profile and confirm your details. This might take a moment." "No problem," the man said. "Take your time." "Thank you." Ethan clicked through tabs and made small sounds with his lips, tiny clucks of focus. Serena, at the next window, made a soft joke to her guest, and the guest laughed. Ethan wished he had that ease. The numbers on the sales board nudged his thoughts again, and he started multitasking in his head. If this guest asked about a new card, Ethan could mention the premium product. If the guest kept it simple, he could still offer the account protection plan. He looked at the man's jacket again, plain, a little dusty at the cuff, and guessed he would not be interested in extras. He felt himself relax into a voice he used when he wanted to be efficient. "Just so you know," he said, "for large transfers or premium features, there are specific requirements. We can keep this very basic if you prefer." The man's smile warmed but stayed small. "I appreciate your help. A statement and a balance confirmation will do." "Copy," Ethan said, a touch brisk. He tapped through the ID screen and held the driver's license up to the light, following the training steps. The security guard, Daniel, walked past and gave a small nod. He was tall, with kind eyes that had seen many kinds of mornings in this lobby. Daniel liked the quiet customers who said hello and thank you. He noticed this man had that kind of voice. He moved on. Behind the man in the cap, the line shifted. The child peeking around his mother's arm studied the face under the brim, then looked up at his mother. "Mom," he whispered, "he looks like SHH, she said softly. "Maybe, maybe not." On the screen, Ethan saw the first part of the profile load. The system took an extra beat, as it sometimes did for accounts with additional security features. A small lock icon turned green. Ethan raised his eyebrows. "Okay," he thought. "Not so basic." He sat up a little straighter. "Let me just confirm your address," he said, and he read it out. The man nodded, confirmed, and spelled a street name to be sure. His patience was steady, his answers clear, and he never pressed. Miss Patel's shoes clicked softly as she crossed behind the counter. "Everything all right?" she asked in a voice meant for staff, not for guests. "All good," Ethan said quickly. "Just verifying." "Good," she replied. Her eyes grazed the guest with a polite nod and then returned to the floor, scanning the line, counting needs in her head the way managers do. She moved on to help an older woman navigate an online form. Ethan returned to the profile and glanced at the name field, and something in his brain flickered, like a light bulb trying to decide whether to turn on. He looked up, finally, at the guest's face, and the flicker grew brighter. He knew that face. He had seen it in movies, on posters, in stories people told about kindness on the street. But the cap and the jacket and the quiet had made the name just a sound a moment ago. Now the sound and the face aligned. He did not say anything. He was not sure he was right, and he did not want to be wrong in a loud way. He swallowed and looked down again, pretending that nothing had shifted inside his head. The child behind the man leaned a little to the side, trying to see more. The mother placed a gentle hand on the child's shoulder, a reminder to give people their space. "Do you need anything else for the transfer?" the man asked. "I'll generate the statement and print it on secure paper," Ethan said, clearing his throat. "And I can prepare the balance confirmation for your records. If you'd like, I can also set up a recurring support plan." "That would be good," the man said. "Monthly?" "Nothing loud." "Understood," Ethan replied. He felt a small tug of embarrassment at the word loud. He heard his own earlier voice in his head, the one that had been a shade too brisk, a shade too sure. He softened his tone. "We take privacy seriously. I can mark the file so we keep everything discreet." "Thank you," the man said, and he meant it. Serena stepped away from her window to fetch a form and gave Ethan a quick sideways look, the kind that says, "Need a hand?" He shook his head. He had it. He wanted to have it. He wanted to do this exactly right now, not only because of who the guest might be, but because he could feel the air in the lobby shift toward quiet attention. These moments happened at banks. They were not about fame. They were about respect, and everyone could feel when it was present and when it was missing. "Second piece of ID, please," Ethan said, keeping his voice level. It was part of the process for certain account types and certain requests. The man produced it without a word, and Ethan verified the details with careful eyes and steady hands. He thanked the man, and the man nodded, and the small, careful ritual of trust moved forward another step. Daniel, making his round, paused again at a polite distance. His job was to watch, to reassure, and to be a quiet anchor when the room got busy. He admired customers who brought patience with them. He admired staff who caught themselves and corrected their tone without being told. He felt both things happening now, and it made the lobby feel steadier. The printer at Ethan's station woke up with a hum. He prepared the secure paper and stamped the first section that said certified. He set the system to compile the formal balance confirmation. He checked the spelling of the nonprofit's name from the notes the guest had provided. He confirmed the routing details for the future plan. He slowed himself and did not look at the leaderboard in the corner of his screen. He let the moment be only about this task and this person. The child in line gathered quiet courage. He lifted his hand a few inches, then lowered it. The man in the cap turned slightly and saw the small wave and returned it with a tiny wave of his own. The child's eyes went wide with delight. He whispered something to his mother, and she smiled. It stayed private. The lobby kept its soft murmur. No one tried to turn a simple morning into a scene. Miss Patel finished helping the older woman at the kiosk and looked back at the counters. She noticed Ethan's posture now, straighter, calmer, more focused. She could not hear the words, but she saw the rhythm and she liked it. She took 2 steps closer, only to be available if needed, and then stopped. Staff grow best, she believed, when they handle important moments with their own hands. "Would you also like a clean folder for your documents?" Ethan asked the guest. "It seals." "That would be helpful," the man said. Ethan took a fresh folder from the drawer. He checked the print preview one more time, then sent the command. The balance confirmation began to print. The numbers, the dates, the official phrasing, all in neat black lines. He watched it feed out and felt a stronger tug of that earlier embarrassment. He had been ready, at the start, to place this guest in the quick and basic category. He would remember the lesson. He would remember that quiet people often carry large stories, and that respect is not a bonus feature but the base level of service. He slid the documents into the folder, left it open for final signatures where needed, and placed a pen on the counter. "I'll have you sign here to acknowledge receipt," he said, "and I'll finalize the monthly plan after that." The man signed with a clean, simple signature. No flourish. He thanked Ethan again, and his eyes had that same steady warmth that had come in with him. The line behind him moved a little, patient and curious and calmer than before. Ethan breathed in, slow, and let it out. He met the guest's eyes with his own, finally seeing the person fully, not the jacket, not the cap, not his own checklist. "Thank you for your patience," he said quietly. "I appreciate it." "You're doing fine," the man replied, just as quietly. "Busy mornings can make anyone hurry. Accuracy matters more." Ethan nodded. He felt the words settle into him. Accuracy matters more. He would hold that for the rest of the day, and maybe longer. He handed over the folder, kept his hands still so the paper would not slide, and smiled with real gratitude. As the guest stepped slightly aside to tuck the folder into his bag, Ethan reset his station for the next part of the process. The small green lock on the screen glowed. The queue number blinked. The city moved outside the glass like a living clock. Somewhere in the lobby, a phone reminder chimed, then stopped. The world, busy as ever, felt a little more careful, a little more human. The man in the cap lifted his gaze and offered a soft nod to Miss Patel as he passed her. She returned it with a respectful smile and a simple, "Thank you for visiting." No whispers. No announcement. Just the quiet that comes with grace. At his window, Ethan straightened the stack of deposit slips, smoothed the edge of the mat, and told himself, again but differently this time, that today would be the day he did better. Not to chase the board, but to meet the standard that had just been set in front of him without a single raised voice. He looked at the next number, called the next guest, and greeted them as if he had never learned to judge a story by its cover. Ethan watched the progress bar on his screen creep forward like a slow train. The account profile took longer than usual to open because of extra security layers. He told himself this was normal. He told himself to breathe. But the line behind the quiet man kept shifting, and the soft weight of many waiting eyes pressed against his shoulders. He felt the urge to move faster and say less, even though he knew the process demanded care. The printer at his elbow spat out a test page and went silent again. Somewhere across the lobby, a small cough echoed like a reminder to keep things moving. "Thank you for your patience," Ethan said, filling the silence. "I'm going to run a manual verification. It's routine for accounts with extra protections." "No problem," the man in the cap replied. His voice held steady kindness. He kept his hands on the counter, not drumming, not fiddling, just resting there. He had the stillness of someone who understood that time could be a friend if you let it. Ethan clicked a series of boxes on the screen. The system asked for a second confirmation. Then it asked for a supervisor's code. He frowned and glanced toward Miss Patel. She was helping someone at the kiosk, explaining in clear, patient sentences how to enroll in online banking. He did not want to interrupt, but he also did not want the line to stall. He opened the small chat window built into his terminal and sent her a quick message, "Manual verification needed. Hi SEC account. Can you approve?" She read it within seconds. "On my way," her reply popped up. Ethan relaxed a fraction. Serena leaned over her divider, keeping her voice low. "You good?" "Yep," he said. "Just extra steps. Accuracy first," she said, echoing Miss Patel's morning reminder. Then she turned back to her guest and finished a deposit with a smile. The young boy who had noticed the man again tugged on his mother's sleeve. She crouched so he could whisper. He said a name softly. She looked once more at the man in the cap. "Maybe," she breathed, neither denying nor confirming. "Either way, we give people space." The man in the cap overheard none of it. He had the look of someone who often chose not to take center stage, even when the world tried to push him there. He wore quiet like a good coat. He watched Ethan's hands work the keyboard and saw the thoughtfulness returning to the teller's face. He appreciated thoughtfulness in places where hurry was the usual rule. Miss Patel arrived with the easy stride of someone who fixed problems by staying calm. "Thank you for waiting," she told the guest with a respectful nod. To Ethan she said, "What do you have?" "Advanced profile," he answered. "Request is a certified statement and balance confirmation. System wants a manager code to release the summary." "Fine," she said. She typed her code, then paused to scan the screen. She read the name field, the security notes, and the history markers that indicated the account had special privacy preferences. She did not react beyond a small, professional nod. She made no fuss. She liked to let respect be the loudest thing in the room. "I'll assist from my desk," Miss Patel said gently. "We'll reduce the crowd at the window and keep things comfortable." The man in the cap appreciated the offer. "Thank you," he said. Ethan felt both relief and a pinch of worry. Part of him wanted to hold onto the process so he could finish what he had started. Part of him wanted to move the guest to a calmer corner where they could work without the quiet pressure of the line. He decided to accept help with grace. That was a lesson he kept trying to learn. "Right this way," Miss Patel said, guiding the guest to a small desk near a soft chair and a potted plant that had somehow survived the busy air of the branch. The desk area felt like a calm cove behind the counter's tide. Ethan followed with his keyboard on a sliding tray, so he could continue the session from there. Daniel, the security guard, watched the move and recognized the good sense in it. People often relaxed when they stepped away from the line. He took a small step closer, not to hover, not to crowd, just to be nearby if needed, and then shifted his attention back to the lobby. A good guard is a quiet lighthouse, he often thought. Present, steady, and never the main event. At the desk, Miss Patel asked for the same ID the guest had already given and matched it with the on-screen details. She moved through the procedure like a careful song, one step leading to the next with no wasted notes. "You mentioned a donation," she said, tone soft and neutral. "We can prepare the statement to show proof of funds and the official balance confirmation. We can also make a note about discretion, so only essential staff can access the record." "That would be excellent," the man said. "Thank you." Ethan pulled his chair in, opened the certified statement template, and typed the exact legal name of the nonprofit the guest had written on a neat, folded note card. He read the name back, letter by letter, careful not to assume he knew it just by glance. The guest confirmed and spelled a street again. Ethan liked the clear back and forth. It felt like laying down bricks in a straight line. In the lobby, the line kept moving. Serena kept her window humming, and another teller returned from break to open a new station. The gentle rise and fall of voices turned into a steadier rhythm. The child and his mother stepped forward, their turn approaching. The child kept glancing at the desk area, but he did not point, and he did not shout. The mother squeezed his hand once, telling him he was doing a good job by simply being polite. Back at the desk, Ethan needed to run what the system called a confidence check. It was a quiet way of saying, confirm the account owner's recent activity and preferences to make sure everything lined up. He asked simple, respectful questions. The guest answered with simple, respectful answers. No one rushed. No one tried to impress anyone else. It felt like a clean exchange of trust, which is the best a bank can offer on a weekday morning. Then the system threw up a yellow box with a small exclamation mark. Ethan's stomach tightened for a second until he read the fine print. Secondary verification suggests recent travel. Confirm availability of owner for any real-time transfer above threshold. It was not a block, just a double check. He explained it in plain words. "I can confirm now," the man said, taking out his phone. "Whatever you need." Miss Patel shook her head with a kind smile. "My code is sufficient for the statement and confirmation you asked for. For a large real-time transfer, we'd ask you to confirm on your device. For now, we are within routine steps." "Perfect," the man said, slipping the phone away. "Routine is good." Ethan felt better. He liked the word routine more now that it was attached to accuracy and care rather than speed. He reached for the stack of secure paper with the faint watermark you could only see when you held it up to the light. He printed a test line, checked the alignment, and then set the real document to print. As the printer warmed, he had a sudden thought that surprised him. He wanted to do more than just get through this task. He wanted the guest to leave feeling that the bank was a good place to trust. Not because of any famous name or large number, but because people here treated people well. The thought landed like a small seed in good soil. The certified statement printed line by line, each letter crisp. He placed it on a small felt pad and stamped the seal cleanly in the corner. The soft thunk of the seal sounded like a promise kept. He let the ink set, then slid it into the folder. "Next is the balance confirmation," Ethan said. "It will reflect your current standing as of this moment. Would you like it to show only the summary numbers or include the last 4 digits of the account for clarity?" "Summary is fine," the man said. He paused. Thank you for asking. Ethan clicked the option for summary only. He liked that the system let him tailor the document. It made the process feel a little more human. Miss Patel watched him choose each step with care, and she gave the smallest nod, the kind a teacher gives when a student has found the right pace. A quiet ripple moved through the lobby as someone at the far end finished a complicated request and thanked the teller loudly. The sound bounced, then faded. The bank returned to its soft hum. Daniel checked the door as a delivery person came in with a small box of printer toner. He signed for it, gave a friendly word, and set it aside. Back at the desk, Ethan's screen showed the final approval page for the balance confirmation. He hovered a finger over the mouse and felt a tiny flicker of nerves. He could not have said why. It was just that sense you get when you are about to open a curtain and see what is on the stage behind it. He took a breath and clicked. The system asked for Miss Patel's code one more time, as it did for all high-security confirmations. She entered it. The confirmation generated, time-stamped to the minute. Ethan did not read the number aloud yet. That was not the step they were on. He saved the PDF to the secure document vault and printed the physical copy on the same watermark paper. As the sheet fed out, the young boy and his mother finished at Serena's window and turned to leave. The boy looked once more at the man in the cap. The man caught the glance and gave the smallest nod, a thank you for the quiet. The boy smiled, placed his hand over his heart in a shy little gesture, and followed his mother out into the bright day. The door chimed. Sunlight washed across the floor and then settled. Ethan placed the balance confirmation next to the certified statement. He checked the edges, straightened the corners, and slid both into the clean folder that sealed at the top. He left a space for the guest's signature to acknowledge receipt. He placed a pen he knew wrote smoothly beside it. "You're very thorough," the man said. "Trying to be," Ethan answered, and he meant it more now than at any point that morning. "It matters." "It does," Miss Patel agreed. "And we appreciate your patience," she added to the guest. "Banks run on patience," the man said with a warm hint of a smile. "I've learned that over the years." Ethan almost asked a question, a small, friendly one about the nonprofit's work, but he stopped himself. There would be a time to talk about that if the guest wanted to share. Right now, his job was to finish the process with clarity and care. He presented the folder, pointed gently to the signature line, and explained the next steps. "Once you sign for these, I'll note the file that you requested monthly support. We can set that up after the confirmation, or schedule it for later if you prefer." "After is fine," the man said. He signed with that clean, simple signature that looked like a promise to keep showing up. He handed the pen back. Ethan sealed the folder, pressed the edge carefully so it would hold, and set it upright so the papers inside would not bend. He felt the odd, pleasant sense that something larger than paper had just been put in order, a tone, a way of doing things, a small piece of trust. Miss Patel stood. "I'll step away for a moment to check on the floor." "Ethan, continue with the monthly plan options." "I'll return if you need me." "Of course," he said. She drifted back into the lobby, and the room brightened as if a painter had added one more layer of light to the windows. Serena gave her a thumbs up over a stack of deposit slips. Daniel nodded from near the door. The day moved, steady and sure. Ethan turned back to the screen and began to outline the recurring support choices in simple, honest words. He did not push. He did not hurry. He offered, he explained, he listened. The man's attention never wavered. Each answer built on the last like stones placed across a small stream, making a safe path to the other side. By the time they reached the final review, the lobby's morning rush had softened into a calmer flow. The printer hummed. The soft beep of the ticket board sounded less urgent. The potted plant by the desk caught a ray of sun and looked almost proud to be there. Ethan clicked save. He looked up. "We're nearly done," he said with a true, quiet satisfaction. Thank you for letting me take the careful route. The careful route is the shortest in the long run, the man said, and his eyes showed he believed it. Neither of them knew that the next page would change the shape of the morning for everyone within earshot. For now, there was only the steady work of doing things right, and the sense that respect, when practiced, gently changes the air in a room. Ethan clicked the final approval, and the screen changed as if a curtain had been lifted. The balance confirmation appeared with the timestamp and the summary line in neat, bold type. For a second he only saw shapes, not meaning, because his mind was still in the careful steps of process. Then the numbers settled into place. They were not ordinary numbers. They carried the weight of long work, long trust, and quiet means. A steady seven-figure balance looked back at him like a calm lake under sunlight. Ethan's throat tightened. The name on the header aligned fully with the face beneath the cap, and the quiet truth of who sat across the desk became clear in his mind. He did not make a sound. The lesson from training and from life arrived at once. Important moments ask for softer voices, not louder ones. He glanced at Miss Patel. She had already seen the confirmation on her mirrored screen. She did not widen her eyes. She did not blink too fast. She only gave a small, respectful nod that said, "I see it, and I will treat it with care." Then she turned the printed page watermark glinting faintly in the light face down for a moment to avoid any casual glance from the lobby. "Your confirmation is ready," Miss Patel said in a low, even tone. "I will enclose it with the certified statement in a sealed folder, as requested." "Thank you," the man in the cap said. His voice was the same as before, kind and steady. He had not changed. The room had changed, and Ethan knew it was not because of fame, but because empathy was doing its quiet work inside him. Ethan found his voice and kept it level. "I'm sorry for the delay earlier," he said. "I was focused on speed when I should have been focused on respect. Thank you for your patience with me." The man met his eyes and gave a small, genuine smile. "Busy mornings happen," he said. "Care is what matters. You chose care." Those words landed in Ethan's chest like a light that stayed on. He breathed slower. The soft sounds of the lobby, the beep of the ticket board, the hum of the printer, Serena's gentle laugh at the next counter returned to their right size. He reached for the folder, slid both documents inside, and pressed the seal with careful fingers. He held the folder for a second longer than usual, as if he were closing not only paper but a promise to do better from this minute forward. Miss Patel arranged the desk with the same simple grace she brought to everything. "You mentioned a donation to a local program," she said. "We can help you set that up in a way that is quiet and precise. If you prefer, we can do a one-time transfer today and schedule a modest recurring plan for future support." "That would be good," the man replied. He took a slim note card from his wallet and slid it across. On it, a nonprofit name was written in neat block letters. "They work with kids after school music, transportation, a hot snack so the evening starts with energy instead of hunger. I'll verify their account details before we initiate anything," Ethan said, grateful for something solid to do with his hands and mind. He typed the name into the bank's vetted directory, confirming the registration status and routing information. A green check appeared beside the organization's profile. He read the name back slowly, spelling the street again so there would be no mistakes. The man confirmed. Ethan felt the small relief that comes when a step is done exactly right. Daniel, the security guard, drifted a little closer with the easy motion of a person who knows how to be present without intruding. He saw the sealed folder, Ethan's steady hands, and the guest's calm expression. He understood the moment without needing any details. He adjusted the flow at the door by greeting a new arrival, took a delivery slip for toner, and let the lobby breathe. A good roomkeeper does not point at the weather, he simply keeps the windows from rattling. Serena came by the desk with 2 paper cups of water. She set one on a coaster in front of the guest and one near Ethan's elbow, then squeezed Ethan's shoulder very lightly. It was not gossip. It was not a question. It was the small human way of saying, "You're doing fine." She returned to her window and helped an older man with a checkbook that looked like it had been balanced by hand for 30 years. Miss Patel prepared the transfer form with quiet efficiency. "Would you like to include a short message for the nonprofit's internal note?" she asked. Many donors leave a simple line for the staff or students. The man thought for a moment, eyes soft. "Yes. Please write, for more music, more joy. Nothing else." "Of course," Miss Patel said, typing it in the field. She read the line back, then saved the note. "We'll keep your name private on any public listing. The staff will see your message, and only the necessary banking details will be visible to our team." Ethan reviewed the figures for the one-time transfer. He confirmed the source account, the destination profile, the daily threshold, and the internal privacy flag. He looked at each digit twice, then once more just to be sure. The old urge to rush was gone. In its place stood a better habit, one he wanted to keep: be the person who treats the task like it matters to real people, because it does. "When you're ready," he said, "we can execute the transfer and then set up the monthly support at the level you prefer." The man nodded. "Let's do the transfer now. Then a modest monthly plan to follow." "Understood," Ethan said. He initiated the secure sequence. The system asked for Miss Patel's authorization for the one-time disbursement. She entered her code. Then it asked the account owner for confirmation on his device for the live transfer, as expected for additional safety. The man lifted his phone, approved the prompt with practiced ease, and set the device down as if it were just another pencil on the desk. A moment later the screen displayed a serene green banner: "Transfer successful." Ethan printed the confirmation, kept it face down while the ink set, and then slid it into a second sealed sleeve marked "Beneficiary Copy." He placed both sleeves into the folder and turned it so the guest could see the labels. "Everything you asked for is here," he said quietly. "Would you like us to mail a copy to the nonprofit for their records, or will you deliver it yourself?" "I'll deliver it," the man said. "Quiet is best." "Quiet can be strong," Miss Patel agreed. "We'll keep our side quiet, too." For a few heartbeats, no one spoke. The silence did not feel empty. It felt full, like a pause in a good song where the next note will mean a little more because of the breath between. Ethan used that breath to find the right words. "If you ever want to host a small community hour here for parents and teens about money basics, we'd be honored to provide the space and materials. No publicity, just useful help. We've been thinking about starting one." Miss Patel glanced at him with a warm surprise. It was a clever, kind idea, and it came from the right place. She let Ethan own it. "We could do topics like saving for goals, safe transfers, understanding statements," she added. "Short and simple." The man's eyes brightened in a gentle way. "That sounds good," he said. "If I'm in town, I'll stop by quietly and sit in the back. The less attention on me, the more attention on the ideas." Ethan smiled. "That would be perfect." A small ripple of impatience rose from the far end of the lobby where a guest had brought a complex form without the needed ID. Daniel stepped in with his steady presence, offered a seat, and showed a simple checklist in a calm voice. The ripple smoothed out. The lobby returned to its soft balance. Miss Patel looked out across her branch with quiet pride. Busy places can still be gentle, she thought, when people choose to be. Ethan turned to the monthly plan and kept his language simple. "Here are 3 options," he said. "We can set a fixed amount to send on the first of each month, or we can tie it to the program's schedule, say, 2 days before their music class starts so they always have funds for bus rides and snacks. The third option is a flexible plan where you approve each month's amount on your phone when we send a reminder, so you can match need as it comes." "Let's do the second option," the man said. 2 days before their class starts. Predictable help can be a good backbone. Agreed, Ethan said. He programmed the schedule, entered the modest amount the man chose, and set the reminder for quiet verification. He triple-checked the dates, then clicked save. The screen displayed a soft checkmark. He liked that design choice, it felt like a calm nod instead of a shout. Serena passed by again with a stack of envelopes and caught Ethan's eye. He gave a small thumbs up. She returned it and continued on, her steps bright and light. At the far window, the older man with the checkbook finally balanced his ledger, smiled at a memory he did not share aloud, and left with careful steps. Ethan gathered the final documents and presented the sealed folder. All set, he said. Certified statement, balance confirmation, transfer record, and the monthly plan. We've marked your profile for discretion. If you ever want changes, come by or call the private line on the card inside the folder. No wait necessary. Thank you, the man said. He looked at Ethan for a moment, as if measuring not skill but heart. Whatever he saw seemed to please him. He reached for a small receipt slip and a pen and wrote a short note. He slid it across the desk with a smile. The note read, "For your care today, keep choosing respect." It was not a signature for fame, it was a note for a person. Ethan felt his cheeks warm. He tucked the slip into his drawer, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. "I will," he said softly. "Truly." Miss Patel stood and offered a final handshake. "We're grateful you trusted us," she said. "We'll see you again, and we'll be ready." The man rose with the same gentle way he had carried all morning. He placed the sealed folder into his bag, took the cup of water with him so he could drop it in the recycling near the door, and adjusted the brim of his cap. Daniel opened the side aisle to give him a clear, calm path back to the lobby. No fanfare followed. A single thank you from Serena, a nod from Daniel, and a quiet "have a good day" from Ethan were the only sounds marking his steps. The door chimed. Sunlight touched the floor. The man stepped into the city's steady motion and was gone. But the room did not return to what it had been. It felt slightly reshaped, as if kindness had pressed a new pattern into the air. Ethan settled back into his chair, aware that part 3 of his morning had not been about numbers at all. It had been about how a person can change a place by choosing calm, by choosing respect, by choosing to give. And though the reveal had taken only a minute on a screen, its echo would last through many shifts to come. Ethan turned to his next task with a new center inside him. He called the next guest with a voice that was warm without being loud, clear without being sharp. The printer hummed. The ticket board blinked. Miss Patel made a note to schedule that community hour. Serena teased Daniel about his lighthouse walk. The potted plant by the desk stood very still, looking, somehow, pleased. The morning moved forward, but everyone who had been close to that desk felt the difference. They knew the day had tilted towards something better, and they were ready to keep it there. The city afternoon moved like a calmer version of the morning. Traffic slowed, clouds softened the light, and the wind pressed gentle palms against the faces of tall buildings. After leaving the bank, the man in the cap walked 2 blocks without any hurry. He had work to finish, not the kind done at a desk, but the kind done with people. He took out the neat note card again and checked the nonprofit's address, not because he doubted it but because he liked to be exact. He turned left and entered a small music store with a bell that rang in a kind way, as if it had been greeting neighbors for 20 years. Inside, rows of instruments waited like friends, trumpets with bright mouths, violins with warm backs, clarinets that promised steady notes, and a used upright piano with a small scratch that looked like a smile. The shop owner, a woman with careful hands and kind eyes, looked up from her counter. "Welcome," she said. "Let me know what you need." "I'm looking for sturdy student instruments," the man said. "Good quality, not too fancy, and easy to maintain. They'll be used by many kids, so they need to be tough and forgiving." The owner nodded in approval. I know that world, she said. I grew up in it. School horns, shared violins, shared courage. She laughed softly and led him down an aisle. She touched each instrument the way a teacher might touch a child's shoulder lightly, with respect. These models are made for beginners and for long days. The cases are strong. The reeds and strings are easy to replace. The valves keep their promise when cleaned with care. He listened, asked simple questions, and wrote down the answers. He did not push for discounts, he asked for fairness. The owner gave him a fair price and added spare reeds and strings for free because she believed in joy that lasts, not joy that ends the day it starts. Delivery, she asked. Yes, he said. He gave the nonprofit's address and requested a time when the kids would be there, not to make a scene, but so the instruments could arrive like a surprise that belonged to everyone, not to him. He paid, confirmed the list one more time, shook the owner's hand in thanks, and left with the same quiet he had carried all morning. Back at the bank, Ethan's shift entered the after-lunch stretch, the part of the day when people come in with forms they promised themselves they would handle someday. A man in work boots with dust on the toes came to Ethan's window with a worried look and a stack of bills that did not add up. In the old morning version of himself, Ethan might have tried to solve it fast with a quick answer. In the new version that had begun at the desk with the sealed folder, he chose patience. He asked one question at a time. He sorted the papers into clean piles. He explained each step in simple words. He did not talk down. He talked across, as one person to another. The man in boots relaxed as the numbers settled. I thought I was going to get a fee, he said. Money's tight this week. You're okay, Ethan said. We'll set up reminders that match your paydays. It will help the timing. He printed a small schedule with boxes to check and folded it into the man's hand like a practical kindness. The man smiled the slow smile of someone who will sleep better tonight. Thank you, he said, tapping the counter twice in the habit of a person who fixes things with his hands. He left lighter than he arrived. Miss Patel watched this from a few steps away, pleased but not surprised. She believed that people want to be good at their jobs, they just need a clear example to follow and a reason to care. She made a note in her small book, Service Training. Ask Ethan to co-lead. Title, See the Person First. Daniel, the security guard, stood near the door where the light slanted in at a neat angle. He had a way of making the space feel safe without ever saying the word safe. He held the door for an elderly woman who was pushing a cart with a squeaky wheel. He took a gentle step with her so the wheel would jump over the small ridge at the threshold. Thank you, young man, she said, and Daniel smiled with the kind of pride that comes from helping in small ways many times each day. In the late afternoon, the phone at Ethan's station blinked with an incoming call from an outside number. He answered with his new calm. The caller's voice carried the light of good news. Hello, this is Maria from the after-school program, she said. I just wanted to confirm something with your branch manager. A transfer came through today. It looks real, but it is very kind, and I want to be sure everything is correct before we do anything with it. Ethan put the call on a brief hold and brought Miss Patel to his station. She verified the details with Maria, careful to protect privacy on both sides. Yes, she said. The transfer is correct. It includes a note for your staff, for more music, more joy. On the other end, Maria's breath caught in a very real way. More music, she repeated softly, as if tasting the words. We can fix the old violin cases. We can buy bus passes. We can give every child a clean set of strings. She paused, then added, almost to herself, we can say yes more often. We're happy for you, Miss Patel said. Please let us know if you need any help with documentation for your records. Thank you, Maria replied. We'll take care of the children. That is the echo we can promise. Ethan returned to his routine with a steadier heart. He did not tell anyone in the lobby about the call. It was not a story for the room. It was a story for the children who would open cases and smell the bright, hopeful scent of new instruments. In the days that followed, the ripple spread in quiet lines. Serena started keeping a small box of spare pens on her counter for guests who came in flustered and left them behind by mistake. She put a tiny label on the box that read, "No rush, pens wait." People smiled at that, and the smiles did half the work of calming them down before the real work even began. Daniel created a simple how to line up sign with clear arrows so people would not feel lost at the door. The sign did not bark. It invited. Miss Patel set a date for the first community hour, a short, early evening session in the small meeting room near the back. The topics would be basic, the tone friendly, and the chairs set in a gentle circle instead of rows. She printed a single-page flyer and placed it by each window. Money basics for parents and teens, it read. Plain language. No selling. Bring questions. On the flyer, in small type near the bottom, she added, snacks provided by a friend. The friend was the man in the cap, who had sent a brief note through the private line, happy to cover snacks, please keep my name off the sign. Miss Patel honored the wish. She ordered fresh fruit, simple cookies, and small bottles of water. She chose napkins that did not shout with bright colors. This was not a party, it was care. On the afternoon of the first community hour, the sky opened with a light rain that made the sidewalks shine. Parents and teenagers came in small clusters, shaking off umbrellas and offering polite greetings. The older woman with the squeaky cart arrived without the cart this time but with a notebook and a pen. The man with dusty boots came with a younger brother who wanted to learn how to keep a simple budget. Serena set out the snacks with cheerful order. Daniel placed a small sign on the door that said, "Welcome. You are right on time." 5 minutes after the session began, a quiet figure took a chair at the back of the room. He wore the same cap, the same plain jacket, and the same gentle way of taking up just enough space. He listened, eyes soft, as Miss Patel explained how to read a statement, how to spot a fee before it happens, and how to talk to a bank when life gets messy. Ethan stood at the whiteboard and drew a simple map of a paycheck, what comes in, what must go out, what can be saved, and what should be set aside for a goal that makes you smile on hard days. A teenager with a violin case by her feet asked a question about bus passes. Her music class was across town, and sometimes she missed it when her mother's shift ran late. Transportation is the bridge between dreams and rooms, Miss Patel said gently. We'll show you how to plan for that bridge. Ethan added a small bus pass box to the whiteboard budget and a note that said, pay first so the rest can happen. At the end of the hour, people stayed to talk, not because the speakers were famous but because the ideas had landed in useful places. The man in the cap waited until most had left. He stood, gave Miss Patel and Ethan a small nod, and then turned to the teenager with the violin case. Play your scales even on the days you don't want to, he said with a kind smile. The days you do not want to are the days that make the rest work. She smiled back with the brave pride of someone who plans to do exactly that. The next afternoon, a delivery truck pulled up outside the after-school program. The bell on the door rang as if it were learning a new song. Children pressed their faces to the glass. Maria, the director, opened the door and guided the boxes inside. Trumpets, clarinets, violins, a small drum set, and a keyboard came in on careful shoulders. At the back of the group, wearing a cap and a plain jacket, a volunteer carried a heavy box of music stands and a bag of spare strings. He did not introduce himself. He left before the group photo and held the door for two small boys who were trying to carry a case together. Inside, Maria pulled the instruments from their cases one by one. The room filled with small gasps, the good kind, the kind that say, I can try. A boy placed a violin under his chin and pulled the bow with a first note that squeaked like a door learning how to open. A girl pressed a trumpet valve and smiled at the bright sound that answered. Another child tapped a drum with the careful hands of someone who knows rhythm lives in all living things. Maria took a picture of the instruments, not the faces, and sent it to the bank with a short message, "Your careful steps help deliver these. More music, more joy is real here today." Ethan saw the picture on Miss Patel's screen between customers. He stood a little taller. Serena came over during a lull and looked too, hand over her heart. Daniel smiled from his station near the door. It felt right that the room saw only instruments, not names. The story was doing what it should do, it was moving away from the teller, the manager, and the quiet man in the cap, and toward the children who would make the real sound. That evening, when the bank closed, Ethan stayed a few minutes to write something on a small card. He kept his words simple: "Thank you for your patience. I learned a better way to work today. I will keep learning." He placed the card inside his drawer beside the earlier note that said, "Keep choosing respect." He did not need a plaque. He needed reminders. On his way home, he passed the music store. The lights were dim, but the owner was wiping the counter with the slow satisfaction of a well-spent day. She looked up and waved. He waved back, thinking how many people it takes to make a single good moment real: a donor with a steady heart, a manager who honors privacy, a teller who slows down to be careful, a guard who keeps calm air in the room, a clerk who chooses fair prices, a director who turns funds into instruments, and a child who holds a bow like a promise. The night came down soft. In a small apartment across town, a violin case slept under a bed, and a bus pass lay ready on a kitchen table. In a quiet room, the man in the cap set his jacket on a chair and wrote a short list of errands for tomorrow, the kind of list anyone might write: call the shop owner to thank her again, send a message to Maria about stand lights, check on a friend, be on time. He placed the list by his keys, took a breath, and felt grateful for the simple power of a well-made plan. At the bank, Miss Patel locked the door and turned the sign to closed. She looked through the glass at the city lights and thought about the small phrase that had driven the day. More music. More joy. She smiled and added a line to the next morning's agenda: begin with a 1-minute story. Not about numbers. About care. Then she switched off the lobby lights and left a single lamp on by the potted plant, which somehow looked even more alive in the soft glow, as if it, too, understood that a gentle change had taken root and would keep growing. A week passed, and the days felt a little different at the branch, the way air feels after a light rain. People still hurried in and out, but the tone had changed. Ethan noticed it first at his own window. He greeted each guest as if their story could surprise him in a good way. He no longer glanced at the leaderboard every 10 minutes. He looked at faces, not jackets. He listened for what people needed, not for what he could sell. He still offered useful products, but only after the real work was done: respect, clarity, and care. Miss Patel saw the change too. She watched Ethan guide a young couple through opening their first joint account. He did not rush the forms. He explained every line in plain words. When the couple shared that they were saving for a small wedding and a simple home, Ethan drew a clean, short plan on a sticky note and titled it "Steps We Can Actually Do." The couple smiled, folded the note carefully, and thanked him twice. After they left, Miss Patel wrote Ethan a quiet compliment on a small card: "You made money feel less heavy today." She slipped the card into his drawer while he was helping someone else. Daniel, the security guard, felt the shift from his place near the door. He greeted people before they reached the line and helped them find the right window. He spoke softly and walked calmly. People copied the calm without thinking about it. The lobby stayed orderly at times when it used to swell and tighten. He decided that the nicest sound in the bank was not the beep of the ticket board, but the soft thank you that followed a solved problem. He heard more of those now. Serena kept her no-rush pens weight box filled and noticed it grew empty more slowly. Guests began returning pens with small smiles and small stories. One man said, "I kept this for an hour because I had to fill a form at the clinic. I brought it back because it felt like a promise." She laughed and told Ethan later, "See? Even pens can teach patience." On a quiet Wednesday morning, an envelope arrived for the branch. It held a handwritten note from Maria, the director of the after-school program. Inside the envelope was also a simple photo, not faces, not a ceremony, just a long table with open instrument cases and neat rows of reeds, strings, and sheet music. The note said, "Your careful steps brought these to life." The first day was loud and lovely. The second day was better. The third day was music. Miss Patel placed the photo on the staff corkboard in the break area with a small caption she typed out, "More music. More joy." That same morning, a mother and her son walked into the bank. Ethan recognized them at once. They had been in line the day the man in the cap came to the branch. The boy carried a sturdy case. The mother asked if they could speak to the manager for a moment. Miss Patel came out with her usual calm smile. The mother explained, in a quiet voice, that her son had joined the after-school program. He was learning the clarinet. She thanked the bank for being so precise with that transfer, because it had brought real help at the right time. The boy opened the case just enough to show the top of the instrument and the music book tucked in the side pocket. He closed it again with great care. He looked up and said, "I can play a scale now. It sounds like steps you can trust." His words were simple. His pride was clean and bright. Daniel waved from the door, and Serena said, "That's beautiful. Keep going." Ethan told him, "Scales are the road. Songs ride on them." The boy nodded as if he understood more than the sentence said. Then he and his mother left, and the door chimed, and the lobby felt as if someone had opened a window for fresh air. That afternoon, Miss Patel held a short staff meeting in the small room at the back. She asked Ethan to share one lesson from the last week. He stood, a little nervous, and said, "I learned that speed without respect is not service. I learned that accuracy can be kind if you say what you are doing while you do it. And I learned to stop judging a story by the first minute." He paused, then added, "I have a sticky note on my monitor that says, 'See the person first.' It helps." Serena clapped softly. Daniel nodded. Miss Patel wrote the phrase on the whiteboard and circled it. Then she said, "This is our new standard. Let's keep it." The first community hour arrived a few days later. The chairs formed a circle. The sign on the door said, "Welcome. No selling. Only simple help." Parents and teens came with small questions and big goals. Miss Patel explained how to build a budget that included bus passes and school supplies before entertainment. Ethan drew a tiny roadmap from paycheck to goal and left blank spaces so people could write in their own needs. Serena set out fruit and cookies and clean napkins. Daniel guided latecomers to open spots without disrupting the flow. Halfway through the session, a quiet figure slipped into a chair at the back. He wore his cap. He took no attention. He listened. He smiled when a teen said, "I didn't know I could talk to a bank about problems before they happen." He watched as Miss Patel showed how to read a statement line by line without fear. He watched Ethan explain interest in a way that made people lean forward, not back. When it ended, the figure stood and waited until most had left. He thanked Miss Patel and Ethan in a soft voice and said, "You kept your promise. Plain language. Real help." Then he turned to the teenager with the violin case and said, "Keep your practice simple. Simple wins." He left with the same quiet he always carried. No one took a photo. No one asked for one. It was better that way. News did not spread in headlines. It spread in habits. A customer who used to rush learned to take a breath at the counter. A teller who used to speak fast learned to pause between steps. A manager who used to save praise for big wins learned to notice small wins and say them out loud. The branch did not become famous. It became steady, which is better. Ethan's own life changed in ways that did not look dramatic from the outside. He found that he was less tired after a day of careful service than after a day of rushing. He found that a good apology, given early and cleanly, saved him hours of repair later. He found that the best part of his job was not when a sale closed, but when a person walked away lighter. He began to write a small sentence at the end of each day on an index card: "Today I helped .. He filled in the blank with one clear act: a worker match his paydays to his bill dates, a grandmother set up a safe transfer for her medicine, a teen open a first savings account for a used bike. He kept the cards in a shoebox under his desk. No one else read them. He did not need anyone to. The act of writing them was enough. Miss Patel noticed that staff turnover slowed. She saw fewer escalations and fewer complaints. When a complaint did arrive, it was usually about something simple and fixable. The team fixed it. She sent a short report to headquarters with 3 lines: "We practiced respect. We slowed down." Customer satisfaction rose. Headquarters asked for a longer report. She smiled and sent them a 1-page note titled, "Small Steps, Large Echo." Daniel had his own quiet celebration. He made a little list of times he saw small kindness change a big mood. He wrote, "Held door for stroller stress turned into smile. Explained line to visitor confusion turned into thank you. Calmed noise at lunch rush shouting turned into talking." He kept the list in his pocket and read it on breaks. It reminded him that his job was not about reacting to problems. It was about helping the room avoid them. Serena added one new sign to her counter: "Ask me to slow down if I'm going too fast." She meant it. A guest pointed to the sign one day and said, "I needed that." He left calmer, and she felt proud in a warm, simple way. One evening, Maria invited the bank staff to a short open house at the after-school program. There was no stage. There were no speeches. There were tables with instruments, chairs in a circle, and children playing short pieces they had practiced for a week. The room smelled like pencil shavings and clean cases. The teenager with the violin case played a scale and then a small song that sounded like someone finding a path. A boy with a clarinet played a tune that rose and dipped like a gentle wave. Maria thanked everyone with words that were careful and spare. "When adults keep their promises," she said, "children learn to keep theirs too." At the back of the room, near the coats, a quiet figure stood for a few minutes, listening. He wore his cap. He did not stay long. He clapped softly after each piece, then slipped out as another group was setting their music on stands. He left behind no mark but a warm space where he had stood and the feeling, shared by many, that kindness works best when it does not ask for attention. When the bank closed that night, Ethan stayed a moment at his window. He looked at the sticky note that said, "See the person first." He thought about the sealed folder, the careful papers, the soft nods, the small waves, and the instruments that now lived in a bright room across town. He remembered his first words on the morning of the long line and the small pinch of pride that had sat in his chest. He remembered the moment the numbers on the screen had turned from shapes into meaning. He felt grateful that the lesson had found him and that he had not pushed it away. He wrote his final card of the day: "Today I helped a branch grow up a little." He placed it on top of the others, turned off his screen, straightened his mat, and cleaned his pen. He waved to Serena, who was stacking deposit slips with her own neat joy. He waved to Daniel, who checked the door with his lighthouse calm. He waited for Miss Patel to finish her last note, and she joined him at the front. They stood for a second in the quiet lobby. Outside, the city lights made small paths on the glass. Miss Patel said, "Thank you for your work." Ethan said, "Thank you for your trust." They both smiled. Then they turned the sign to closed, locked the door, and stepped into the evening. Across town, in many homes, Children opened cases, adjusted shoulders, and played scales that sounded like steps you could trust. A mother checked a bus pass and set it by the door. A teenager wrote a practice plan on a piece of paper and taped it above a desk. A director stacked music stands and turned off lights with a tired, happy heart. A shop owner counted reeds and strings and ordered more. A quiet man hung his jacket on a chair, wrote a short list for tomorrow, and ended it with the same line he had written on many days: be on time. Choose respect. The story did not close with a headline. It closed with a habit. It closed with a team that had learned to keep calm, to speak plain, to seal documents like promises, to help without noise, and to remember that the balance that matters most is the one between accuracy and kindness. And it closed with a sentence that kept working long after the lights went out: more music, more joy.